On a cold, rainy night, the sound of an ambulance siren tore through the quiet night, the wheels rolling rapidly on the entrance to the provincial hospital. Hi, a 30-year-old man lay on a stretcher, his face pale, his breathing labored, his hands clutching his stomach with excruciating pain that made him almost immobile. Sweat rolled down his forehead, his hands tightly grasping his wife Vi's hand, as if clinging to a fragile hope amidst the unbearable pain. "Nurse, please save my husband. He's in so much pain," Vi screamed in panic, her voice faltering as she heard Hai's broken moans. A nurse quickly approached, her eyes serious. "Where does it hurt? How long has it been hurting?" Hai closed his eyes tightly, his voice weak. "My stomach hurts so much. It feels like it's being squeezed." Dr. Mind, who was on duty that night, entered with a sharp gaze. He immediately ordered, "Emergency, take him to the ultrasound room." The atmosphere in the room became as tense as a string. When the ultrasound machine started, Dr. Mind stared intently at the screen. But in just a split second, his whole body stiffened. The pen in his hand fell to the floor. The ear-piercing sound echoed in the suffocating silence of the room. Impossible. His voice trembled, his hand tightly gripping the medical record. "This man is pregnant." The entire emergency room froze. The nurses gasped. V stood next to Hai with her heart pounding, and Hai, despite his exhaustion, felt like his whole world had collapsed when he heard that sentence. A question rang in everyone's mind. How could a man get pregnant and give birth? To understand this shocking truth, we must go back in time to Hai's journey, a person who was not born with the body he always wanted. Since childhood, Hai realized that he was different. He did not like wearing dresses, did not play with dolls like other girls. Growing up amidst the suspicious eyes of neighbors and the gossip of adults, Hai always clearly affirmed he was not a girl. After many years of internal struggle, he decided to change his gender, injecting male hormones, having surgery to remove his breasts, but for personal reasons, he could not complete the removal of his reproductive organs. To everyone, Hai had become a complete man, a strong husband, a pillar of the family. V loved him not because of his gender, but because of who he was, a steadfast and warm heart. They got married despite fierce opposition from their families. On the wedding day, Hai's father, Mr. Trung, sat silently, his eyes filled with disappointment. He had never accepted the fact that his only daughter was now a man. What made him even more indignant was that Hai could not have children. This family cannot be without descendants. He slammed his rice bowl on the table, his voice low and full of anger. "I don't care how you want to live, but you must have children." I was silent, used to such criticism, but Vi could not bear to see her husband insulted again and again. "Fuck, it's not all about making a family," she protested, but Mr. Trunk growled, "If Hai can't give birth, then you have to give birth." The pressure from her family weighed heavily on Vi's shoulders. That night, when it was just the two of them, Hai watched her sleep, gently stroking her cheek, understanding the pain she was enduring. "Vi," he called softly, his voice trembling, "what if I could give birth to a child instead of you?" Vi was stunned and jumped up. "What are you saying?" Hai pursed his lips, explaining that he had not had a complete surgery, meaning he could still get pregnant. Time seemed to stop. Vi looked at her husband, hundreds of questions rushing through her head. How can you endure it? What if someone finds out? Hai smiled softly, his eyes determined. "You did this for me, for us. If you could give birth to a child instead of me, why not?" Vi burst into tears, hugging him tightly. "You're crazy, but I love you for that." Since deciding to get pregnant, Hai's life has been turned upside down. The morning sickness came unexpectedly, causing him to almost reveal the truth many times. Every morning when he woke up, the feeling of nausea made him want to collapse. But he gritted his teeth to endure so that Vi wouldn't worry. "Hai, are you okay? You look so pale," Vi asked, her eyes full of concern. Hai forced a smile. "It's okay, my body is just not used to it yet." He started wearing loose shirts to hide his body, but the increasingly obvious changes were not easy to fool others. During a meal, Hai's mother, Mrs. Han, was suspicious. "You're so slow these days. You used to be so agile." I was startled. "Yes, I'm a little tired from work." But his father, Mr. Trung, did not believe it. "Work or illness? I see you always avoid heavy work," V quickly defended. "He's had a stomachache recently. The doctor told him to avoid heavy work." Mr. Trung sarcastically said, "Stomachache? I think only pregnant women abstain from that." Doubt did not only come from the family. Neighbors began to whisper. "Hai's been acting strange lately, walking cautiously. His belly keeps bulging. Maybe he's been bewitched." The rumors spread like wildfire. One night when Hai had just finished drinking maternity milk, Mrs. Han suddenly walked into the kitchen and saw the milk box on the table. "Are you drinking this?" Hai stiffened. "Yes, it's V's. She said it's for health." She nodded and left, but her eyes were full of doubt. Hai's secret was getting harder to keep. Then one day the truth was revealed. While Hai was sleeping, Mrs. Han quietly entered his room, her motherly intuition telling her that something was wrong. She opened the bag on the shelf and her breath caught when she saw prescription for pregnancy supplements for women in their 14th week of pregnancy. She rushed down to the kitchen where Mr. Trung was sitting, her voice trembling. "Mr. Trung, I found this in Hai's room." He took it, his eyes narrowed, then stood up. "Impossible." Without waiting any longer, Mrs. Han rushed into Hai's room, slamming the paper on the table. "What is this?" Hai looked down, his heart falling into the abyss. V quickly defended. "It's your friend's. I asked him to keep it for me." But Mrs. Han didn't believe it. "Which friend left the prescription in your room?" Hai tried to stay calm. "It's just a coincidence, nothing." She laughed, but her suspicions were still there. The rumor spread throughout the village. Mrs. Tam, a famous gossip, whispered, "Hai has a strange disease. His stomach is bloated. He drinks maternity milk all day and avoids heavy work. Is he about to give birth to a monster?" One day, in the middle of the market, Hai suddenly collapsed in front of dozens of people. "Oh my God, what's wrong with him?" a woman shouted. Mrs. Tam ran over. "I told you, he has a strange disease." Someone muttered, "Wait, is he pregnant?" That sentence was like a bomb exploding in the middle of the market. "Pregnant? How can a man get pregnant?" Others objected, but Mrs. Tam nodded. "I told you, he must be under a spell." That night, the excruciating pain made Hai unbearable. "V, I'm in so much pain," he groaned. V turned on the light, panicking when she saw her husband sweating profusely. She jumped out of bed, her hands trembling as she called for help. "My husband has severe abdominal pain. Please come right away." The ambulance rushed over. The medical staff quickly took Hai to the emergency room. Dr. Min ordered, "Take him for an ultrasound right away." When the image appeared on the screen, the room fell into deathly silence. Dr. Min's eyes widened, his hands trembling. "Impossible." A nurse stammered, Is this a fetus?" Vi was stunned. Hai closed his eyes, and Dr. Min stepped back. "The patient is a man. How could he be pregnant?" The truth could no longer be hidden. A nurse secretly recorded a video of the ultrasound screen and Dr. Min's stunned face, posted it on social media with the status, "Midnight emergency, pregnant man." In just 30 minutes, the video attracted thousands of views, comments exploded like a storm. "Pregnant man, fake news. Look at the doctor, it's obviously real." Social media exploded. The media got involved. Sensational headlines appeared everywhere. The first man in Vietnam to give birth. In the operating room, Hai lay motionless, his breathing growing weaker. "Quick, take him into surgery," Dr. Min ordered. Vi knelt down outside the door, tears rolling down her face. "Please save him." After a few tense minutes, the baby's weak cry rang out, lighting up the entire operating room. "The baby's breathing," a nurse shouted. Dr. Min breathed a sigh of relief. "Welcome to this world." V rushed to hug her baby, but worriedly asked, "How is my husband?" Dr. Min gently said, "We did our best. Now we are just waiting for him to wake up." Hai woke up from a long coma, but his family already knew about it on the morning news. Mr. Trung angrily threw the remote control on the table. "What the hell is this?" Mrs. Han was stunned. "Is it Hai?" he roared. "He has brought shame to the whole family." Reporters flocked to the hospital, jostling for interviews. A stranger rushed into Hai's room, live streaming, "Mr. Hai, what did you say about men giving birth?" I coldly said, "This is my life, not a pastime for you." Everything seemed to collapse when Mr. Trung declared that he had disowned Hai through a message from Mrs. Han. "Your father no longer considers you as his son." Hai laughed bitterly, threw his phone on the bed. "You have lost everything, V." But V held his hand. "No, you still have me and our child." That night, Hai wandered in the rain, thinking that no one would care if he disappeared. A truck rushed by, but Vi pulled him out in time. "You are a coward. Our child needs a father." Hai hugged his wife, bursting into tears. "I'm sorry." Then the bad news came. The baby was having respiratory failure. Hai and V stood outside the glass cage, helplessly watching their child breathing weakly. Suddenly, Mrs. Han rushed in. "Where is my child? Where is my grandchild?" Hai was stunned when he saw his mother. Mr. Trung also appeared, his eyes wavering as he looked at the baby. "Is this my grandchild?" He placed a family heirloom on the glass cage. "He is my grandchild anyway." The doctor gave the good news. "His breathing is more stable." Mr. Trung said softly, "I will come back to see him tomorrow." A month later, Hai participated in a television interview. "I don't want to be the center of attention," he said. "I just want to protect my family." The MC asked, "What do you say to those who criticized you?" Hai smiled. "I don't blame them. Families are not built on gender, but on love and tolerance." In the countryside, Mr. Trung watched the interview and emotionally said to Mrs. Han, "Let's go see Hai." In front of Hai, he reached out his hand. "You have done what a father should do." Dad was wrong. Hai hugged his mother, held his wife's hand, and placed his child in Mr. Trung's arms. His family was finally complete. After the TV interview, the image of Hai holding his child in Mr. Trung's arms spread all over social media. From a person who was criticized and ridiculed, Hai gradually became a symbol of perseverance and family love. Positive comments began to appear densely. Hai is not just a phenomenon, but proof that love can overcome all barriers, one person wrote. "I used to doubt him, but now I admire him more than ever," another person shared. But not everyone changed their perspective. There were still contemptuous words, suspicious questions. "This is just a trick to attract views. How can men give birth?" Hai read those lines, but he no longer paid attention. For him, the most important thing was that his small family had been restored. The day Hai carried his child back to his hometown for the first time after many storms, the atmosphere in the village was no longer as stifling as before. Mr. Trung stood waiting in front of the gate. His appearance was serious, but his eyes were softer. Mrs. Han ran out, tears streaming down her face when she saw her granddaughter. "She looks so much like you when you were little," she choked out, her hands trembling as she touched the baby's small face. Hai gently placed the baby in Mr. Trung's arms. At first, he was clumsy, his rough hands not knowing what to do, but after a few seconds, he hugged his granddaughter tightly, a rare tear rolling down his haggard cheeks. "My granddaughter," he muttered, his voice low but full of emotion. Vi held Hai's hand, smiling. "Our family is finally complete." But that peace did not last forever. News about Hai did not stop in Vietnam, but spread internationally. Foreign journalists began to contact him, medical organizations sent him invitations to participate in research. One morning, while Hai was feeding his child, the doorbell rang. A group of reporters from an international TV channel stood in front of the house, cameras ready. "Mr. Hai, we want to ask about your special case. Can you share it with the global audience?" Hai sighed, looking at Vi as if asking for her opinion. Vi nodded. "If you want, I will always be by your side." Hai agreed, but he set a limit. "I only talk about my family, not about science or things I don't understand." The interview was broadcast live on an international channel. Hai sat there, his eyes determined, his voice calm. "I am not a scientist, nor a celebrity. I am just a father who wants to protect his family. The only thing I want is for my children to grow up in a world with less prejudice." When asked about the difficulties he had experienced, Hai smiled. "I lost my family once, and society turned its back on me. But I never gave up, because I believe that true love will always find its way back." Those words touched the hearts of millions of viewers. An American viewer commented, "He is an inspiration for those who are struggling to live true to themselves." Another from Europe wrote, "This story is not only about medicine, but also about the power of people." However, the media spotlight also brought new troubles. Some people took advantage of Hai's story for personal gain, spreading fake news that he was collaborating with medical companies to sell reproductive secrets. Sensational headlines appeared everywhere. "Man who gave birth to a child earned billions from a research contract." Hai was furious when he read those lines. "They don't understand anything about me," he told Vi, clutching his phone. Vi put her hand on his shoulder. "You don't need to prove anything to them. We know the truth. That's enough." Hai nodded, but he decided to hold a small press conference in his hometown to clear things up. Witnessed by the press and neighbors, Hai stood up, his voice firm. "I didn't sell my story to anyone. I did everything for my family, not for money or fame. If anyone doesn't believe me, I can't force them. But please, don't turn my life into a joke." Ms. Trunk stood next to him, speaking up for his son for the first time. "Hai is my son. He's not perfect, but he doesn't lie. Anyone who dares to defame him, just face me." Those words silenced the crowd. Mrs. Tam, who had spread the rumor, bowed her head and mumbled, "I'm sorry, I didn't expect things to go this far." After the press conference, Hai's life gradually returned to normal. He and Vi opened a small shop in the village, doing business while taking care of their child. The baby, named Bin, grew up healthy, smiling, and was the family's greatest joy. Mr. Trung often stopped by bringing wooden toys he had made himself. "Grandpa made them for you," he said, his eyes sparkling with a joy he had never seen before. Mrs. Han was busy cooking nutritious meals for the whole family, as if to make up for the months they had been apart. "I don't want to lose you again," she told Hai, her voice choking. But the ordeal never ended. One day, Hai received a letter from a human rights organization inviting him to join a campaign against gender discrimination. "We need your voice to change the way society views us," the letter read. Hai hesitated. He didn't want to return to the spotlight, didn't want his family to be caught up in the public vortex again. But Vi convinced him. "You went through everything to protect us. Now it's time for you to help others who need someone like you." Vi thought all night, then nodded. If I do it, will you always be by my side? Vi smiled. Always. Hai joined the campaign, appeared in talks, shared his story with young people, families struggling for acceptance. I used to think I didn't belong in this world, he said at a conference, but I realized that each of us has the right to be true to ourselves. Don't let anyone define who you are. Those words received thunderous applause. A young girl approached, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Because of you, I dared to tell my family who I am. I smiled, feeling like all the pain he had endured finally had meaning. As time passed, Vin grew up in the love of the whole family. One afternoon, when Hai and Vi took their child to the field to play, Mr. Trunk suddenly appeared, holding a paper kite in his hand. Grandpa, let me make you a kite, he said, and then he and Hai flew the kite into the sky. The wind blew strongly. The kite flew high, carrying Ben's laughter and the simple happiness of a family that once seemed to be falling apart. Hai looked at his wife, looked at his child, then looked at his parents, his heart filled with peace. He knew that, even though the road ahead was full of thorns, as long as his family was by his side, he would never fall. The pressure from his family was like a heavy burden on Vi's shoulders. That night, when it was just the two of them, Hai watched her sleep, gently stroking her cheek, understanding the pain she was enduring. Vi, he called softly, his voice trembling. What if I could give birth to a child instead of you? Vi was stunned and jumped up. What did you say? Hai pursed his lips, explaining that he had not had a complete surgery, meaning he could still get pregnant. The air seemed to stop. Vi looked at her husband, hundreds of questions rushing through her head. How can you endure it? What if someone finds out? Hai smiled lightly, his eyes determined. You do this for me, for us. If you could give birth to a child instead of me, why not? Vi burst into tears, hugging him tightly. You're crazy, but I love you for that. Since deciding to get pregnant, Hai's life has been turned upside down. The sudden bouts of morning sickness almost made him reveal the truth many times. Every morning when he woke up, the feeling of nausea made him want to collapse, but he gritted his teeth and endured so that Vi wouldn't worry. Hai, are you okay? I see you're so pale, Vi asked, her eyes filled with concern. Hai forced a smile. It's okay, my body just hasn't gotten used to it yet. He started wearing loose shirts to hide his body, but the increasingly obvious changes were not easy to hide from others. During a meal, Hai's mother, Mrs. Han, was suspicious. You're so slow these days. You used to be so agile. Hai was startled. Yes, I'm a bit tired from work, but his father, Mr. Trunk, did not believe. Work or illness? I see you avoiding heavy work all the time. V quickly defended. He's had a stomach ache recently. The doctor told him to avoid heavy work. Mr. Trunk sarcastically said, Stomach ache? I think only pregnant women abstain from doing that. Doubts did not only come from the family. Neighbors began to whisper, Hai has been very strange these days, walking cautiously. His belly keeps bulging. Who knows if he's been bewitched? The rumor spread like wildfire. One night, when Hai had just finished drinking maternity milk, Mrs. Han suddenly walked into the kitchen, saw the milk box on the table. Are you drinking this? Hai stiffened. Yes, it's V's, she said. It's for health. She nodded and left, but her eyes were full of doubt. Hai's secret was getting harder to keep. Then one day, the truth was revealed. While Hai was sleeping, Mrs. Han quietly entered his room, her motherly intuition telling her that something was wrong. She opened the bag on the shelf, and her breath caught when she saw a prescription for prenatal supplements for women in their 14th week of pregnancy. She rushed down to the kitchen where Mr. Trunk was sitting, her voice trembling. Mr. Trunk, I found this in Hai's room. He took it, his eyes narrowed, then stood up. Impossible. Without waiting any longer, Mrs. Han rushed into Hai's room, slammed the paper on the table. What is this? Hai looked down, his heart falling into the abyss. Vi quickly defended. It's your friend's. I asked him to keep it for me. But Mrs. Han didn't believe it. Which friend left the prescription in your room? Hai tried to stay calm. It's just a coincidence, nothing. She left, but the suspicion was still there. The rumor spread throughout the village. Mrs. Tam, a famous gossip, whispered, Hai has a strange disease. His belly is bloated. He drinks maternity milk all day and avoids heavy work. Is he about to give birth to a monster? One day, in the middle of the market, Hai suddenly collapsed in front of dozens of people. Oh my God, what's wrong with him? A woman screamed. Mrs. Tan ran over. I told you, he has a strange disease. Someone muttered, wait, is he pregnant? That statement exploded like a bomb in the middle of the market. Pregnant? How can a man get pregnant? Someone else objected, but Mrs. Tam nodded. I told you, he must have been bewitched. That night, the pain was so excruciating that Hai could not bear it. Vi, I'm in so much pain, he groaned. Vi turned on the light, panicking when she saw her husband sweating profusely. She jumped out of bed, her hands trembling as she called for help. My husband has severe abdominal pain. Please come here now. The ambulance rushed in. The medical staff quickly took Hai to the emergency room. Dr. Min ordered, take him for an ultrasound immediately. When the image appeared on the screen, the room fell into deathly silence. Dr. Min's eyes widened, his hands trembling. Impossible. A nurse stammered, This is a fetus? Vi was stunned. Hai closed his eyes, and Dr. Min stepped back. The patient is a man. How could he be pregnant? The truth could no longer be hidden. A nurse secretly recorded a video of the ultrasound screen, and Dr. Min's stunned face, posted it on social media with the status, "Midnight emergency, pregnant man." In just 30 minutes, the video attracted thousands of views, and comments exploded like a storm. "Pregnant man, fake news. Look at the doctor. It's obviously real." Social media exploded. The media got involved, and sensational headlines appeared everywhere. The first man in Vietnam to give birth. In the operating room, Hai lay motionless, his breathing gradually weakening. "Quick, take him to surgery," Dr. Min ordered. Vi knelt outside the door, tears rolling down. "Please save him." After a few tense minutes, the baby's weak cry rang out, lighting up the entire operating room. "The baby is breathing," the nurse shouted. Dr. Min breathed a sigh of relief. "Welcome to this world." Vi rushed to hug her baby, but worriedly asked, "How is my husband?" Dr. Min gently said, "We tried our best. Now we're just waiting for him to wake up." Hai woke up from a long coma, but his family already knew about it on the morning news. Mr. Chung angrily threw the remote control on the table. "What the hell is this?" Mrs. Han was stunned. "Is it Hai?" he roared. "He brings shame to the whole family." Reporters flocked to the hospital, jostling for an interview. A stranger rushed into Hai's room, filming a live stream. "Mr. Hai, what did you say about men giving birth?" Hai coldly said, "This is my life, not a pastime for you." Everything seemed to collapse when Mr. Chung declared that he had disowned Hai through a text message from Mrs. Han. "Your father no longer considers you his son." Hai laughed bitterly, threw the phone on the bed. "You have lost everything, Vi." But Vi held his hand. "No, you still have me and our child." That night, Hai wandered in the rain, thinking that no one would care if he disappeared. A truck rushed by, but Vi pulled him away in time. "You are a coward. Our child needs a father." Hai hugged his wife, bursting into tears. "I'm sorry." Then the bad news came. The baby was having respiratory failure. Hai and Vi stood outside the glass cage, helplessly watching their child breathing weakly. Suddenly, Mrs. Han rushed over. "Where's my child? Where is my grandchild?" Hai was stunned to see his mother. Mr. Trung also appeared, his eyes wavering as he looked at the baby. "Is this my grandchild?" He placed a family heirloom on the glass cage. "He is my grandchild after all." The doctor announced the good news. "His breathing is more stable," Mr. Trung said softly. "I will come back to visit him tomorrow." A month later, Hai participated in a television interview. "I don't want to be the center of attention," he said. "I just want to protect my family." The MC asked, "What do you say to those who criticized you?" Hai smiled. "I don't blame them. Families are not built on gender, but on love and tolerance." In the countryside, Mr. Trung watched the interview and emotionally told Mrs. Han, "Let's go see Hai." In front of Hai, he held out his hand. "You have done what a father should do. I was wrong." Hai hugged his mother, held his wife's hand, and placed his child in Mr. Trung's arms. His family was finally complete. After the interview, the image of Hai holding his child in Mr. Trung's arms spread all over social media. From a person who was criticized, he gradually became a symbol of steadfastness and family love. Positive comments appeared. Hai is proof that love overcomes all barriers. But there were still doubts. This is just a trick to attract views. Hai did not care. For him, family is everything. News about Hai spread internationally. Foreign journalists contacted him. Medical organizations invited him to participate in research. A group of international reporters came to his house. "Can you share with the global audience?" Hai agreed, but limited. "I will only talk about my family." In the live interview, he said, "I am just a father who wants his children to grow up in a world with less prejudice." Those words reached millions. An American viewer wrote, "He is an inspiration." But trouble also came. Fake news spread that Hai made money from research contracts. He held a press conference. "I do everything for my family, not for money." Mr. Trung defended his son. "Whoever smears him, just face me." Hai's life gradually stabilized. He and Vi opened a small shop, taking care of their son Ben, who grew up healthy. Mr. Trung often stopped by bringing handmade toys. A human rights organization invited Hai to participate in a campaign against gender discrimination. He hesitated, but Vi convinced him, "You can help others." Hai joined in, sharing, "Each of us has the right to live true to ourselves." A young girl said, "Thank you. I dare to live true to myself thanks to you." One afternoon, Hai, V, and Mr. Trung flew a kite with Ben. The kite flew high, carrying laughter and simple happiness. Hai knew that even though the road was still thorny, as long as his family was by his side, he would not fall. After Hai joined the campaign against gender discrimination, his family life seemed to have found peace. But behind the halo of praise and recognition from the public, Vi, the wife who always stood by Hai, had to face pressures that no one saw. She was not only Ben's mother, not only the wife who supported Hai through the darkest days, but also the one who silently endured the scrutiny and gossip from society. Every time she went to the market, she still heard whispers. Her husband gave birth to a child? So what is she in that house? V never answered, but in her heart, those questions were like deep cuts. One evening, when Hai was fast asleep after a long day of work, V sat next to Bin's old glass cage, now neatly stored in a corner of the house, and cried silently. She remembered the moment Hai was in the operating room, when she knelt outside the door, begging the doctor to save him. If he doesn't make it, if my child doesn't survive, what will happen to me? She wondered, her hand tightly gripping the small towel she used to wipe Hai's sweat during his pregnancy. V was not a weak person, but she was not a superhero either. She chose to stay with Hai despite everything, and now, when everything was gradually stabilizing, she realized that she needed time to heal the wounds in her heart. Mrs. Han, Hai's mother, was not free from similar torments. Since Hai gave birth, she has become the mediator between him and Mr. Trung, but deep down, she still feels guilty. I didn't protect my child enough, she often thinks, especially when she remembers the early days of Hai's gender transition. She cried every night, not because she didn't accept Hai, but because she was afraid he would suffer in a prejudiced society. When the truth about Hai's pregnancy was revealed, Mrs. Han was the first to run to the hospital, despite the pouring rain and Mr. Trung's cold gaze. "Where is my child? Where is my grandchild?" she shouted, ignoring the curious looks around her. To her, Hai was not just her son, but a part of her flesh and blood that she could not give up. One afternoon, while Vi was holding Bin playing in the yard, Mrs. Han stopped by with a basket of ripe mangoes from the garden. "I brought them for her to eat. They are very sweet," she said, but her eyes stopped on Vi's face, recognizing the fatigue hidden behind the forced smile. "Vi, are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle but full of worry. Vi hesitated, then sighed. "Yes, I'm fine. It's just, sometimes I don't know if I can do it well. Hai is really strong, but I'm afraid I'm not strong enough to keep up with him." Mrs. Han placed her hand on her daughter-in-law's shoulder, her voice firm. "You are the strongest person in this house. If it weren't for you, Hai would have collapsed a long time ago." Those words were like a warm breeze blowing through V's heart. She looked at Mrs. Han, tears silently falling. "Mom, I'm so scared. I'm scared that one day Hai will be hurt again, scared that I won't be able to protect Bin from the malicious words out there." Mrs. Han hugged Vi, patting her back gently like the way she used to comfort Hai when he was little. "I'm scared too, but I learned from you and Hai that as long as we're together, there's nothing we can't overcome. Don't carry it all alone. I'm here." In that moment, two women, a mother and a wife, found common ground in their pain and strength. But a new challenge arose. One day, while Vi was at her family's small shop, a group of strangers appeared, claiming to be representatives of an international organization that studies gender. They asked to meet Hai and Vi to discuss putting their story into a documentary project. "We want to tell your family's story to inspire the world," a woman in the group said, her eyes full of passion. Vi hesitated, not wanting her family to be dragged into the spotlight again. "I'll have to ask Hai," she replied, her voice cautious. When she got home, she told Hai, and he sighed, "I don't want Bin to grow up under the eyes of the whole world. But if this helps someone, I'll think about it." That night, V and Hai sat down together and discussed it thoroughly. "I don't want you to feel pressured anymore," V said, holding her husband's hand tightly. Hai looked at her, his eyes gentle. "I don't want you to suffer either, but if we refuse, will they leave us alone?" In the end, they agreed to meet the film crew, but with one condition. "We only tell our story. We will not participate in any research, and our child must be kept private." The agent nodded. "We respect your decision." The filming began, and V suddenly became the center of attention. She was not only the person behind Hai, but also the one telling the story from her perspective. A wife, a mother. In one scene, V sat by the window, the sunlight shining on her face, and she said, "I used to think I was just someone walking beside Hai, but then I realized I am also a part of this journey. I learned to love him not because of who he is, but because we are family." Those words moved the director to tears, and after the film was released, millions of people sent letters of thanks to Vi. "You are an inspiration to wives and mothers like me," one letter read. Mrs. Han also appeared in the film, although she was shy at first. "I'm not good at speaking in front of the camera," she laughed. But when asked about Hai, she choked up. "He is my son. No matter what happens, I am still proud of him. I just want him to be happy." That simple but sincere statement touched the hearts of the audience. The film is not only about Hai, but also about the women who supported him. Vi with unconditional love, and Mrs. Han with the tolerance of a mother. After the film was released, Hai's family received hundreds of letters from all over. A young girl wrote, "Thanks to Ms. V, I dare to stand up to protect the person I love." A mother thanked Mrs. Han, "You taught me how to accept my child." V read those letters, tears rolling down her face. "Hai, do you see? We have done something bigger than ourselves." Hai hugged his wife, his voice warm. "It's not us, it's you. You are the strongest." One evening, when Bin was fast asleep, Vi and Mrs. Han sat in the yard, looking up at the starry sky. "Mom, how do you think Bin will grow up in this world?" V asked. Mrs. Han smiled. "He will be as strong as you and Hai, because he has a family always by his side." Vi nodded, feeling as if all the burdens in her heart had been lightened. She knew that no matter what the future held, she and Hai, with Mrs. Han's support, would always be there for each other. The documentary about Hai's family was released globally, not only bringing recognition, but also opening a new chapter in their lives. The resonance from the film made Hai, V, and Mrs. Han become symbols of courage and family love in the eyes of many people. Letters from all over the world began to pour in, with small gifts such as toys for Ben, inspirational books, and invitations to international events. A European NGO even proposed to award them the Reconciling Families Award, recognizing their journey of overcoming prejudice to regain their connection. However, that halo also came with new pressures. One morning, when Vi was arranging goods in her family's small shop, a group of local young men appeared. They did not come to buy anything, but gathered in front of the door, pointing and laughing. "Hey, is this the house of the man who gave birth? What kind of wife are you letting your husband give birth instead?" one of them shouted, his voice full of sarcasm. Vi clenched her fists, trying to stay calm, but her heart ached. She turned inside, closed the door, tears streaming down. When Hai returned home and saw his wife's face, he immediately understood. "What did they say to you?" he asked, his voice low but full of worry. Vi shook her head. "It's okay, just stupid words. I'm used to it." But Hai knew she was not okay. He hugged Vi, whispering, "I'm sorry for dragging you into this." That night, Hai could not sleep. He walked out into the yard, sat under the starry sky, and wondered if his decision to get pregnant was really the right one. "I protected Vi, but why does she still have to suffer?" he thought, his heart heavy. The next morning, Hai decided to confront the group of young men. He went to the place where they usually gathered, a small tea shop at the entrance of the village, and stood in front of them, his voice fierce. "If you have any problems with my family, just tell me straight. Don't touch my wife." One of the men sneered. "You're a man and you're giving birth. Aren't you ashamed?" Hai looked straight into his eyes. "Shame is when you don't dare to live true to yourself. As for me, I live for my family. Can you do it?" The silence was stifling. Finally, the group of young men left, not daring to respond further. The incident reached Mrs. Han's ears. She immediately ran to Hai's house, her eyes filled with anger. "Who are those guys? Let me go talk to them." V quickly intervened. "Mom, Hai has already taken care of it. I don't want to make a big deal out of it." But Mrs. Han was not appeased. "You can't let them bully you. Mom is old, but I won't let my child suffer any longer." V held her hand and smiled. "Don't worry, Mom, I have Hai, and Mom, I'm not afraid of anything." Mrs. Han nodded, but in her heart, her determination to protect this small family was greater than ever. Time passed. Vin, Hai, and V's child grew up in the love of the whole family. The boy is now nearly 5 years old, active, intelligent, and especially loves listening to his grandfather tell stories. Mr. Trung, from the person who once declared he would disown Hai, has now become the most devoted grandfather. He often takes Ben to the fields, teaches him how to fly kites, sow seeds, and tell stories about the family's ancestors. "You are my pride," he said to Ben, his voice warm, but he is also worried. One time he pulled Hai aside and asked quietly, "How do you think he will face what people say about you when he grows up?" Hai was silent for a moment, then replied, "I will teach him that family is a support, not something to be ashamed of. As long as he believes in himself, I have nothing to fear." Mr. Trung nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "You are right. But I am still worried." Mr. Trung's worries were not unfounded. One day, when Vi took Ben to kindergarten, the teacher called her after school. "Sister Vi, I don't want to make you sad, but today the kids teased Ben, saying, 'Your father is a woman, your father gave birth to you.'" Ben didn't cry, but he was silent all day. Vi listened and felt her heart ache. She went home and told Hai, tears welling up, "Brother, I don't know what to do. He is so young. Why does he have to endure those words?" I held Vi, his voice firm. "We will teach him how to face things. Ben is not weak. He is our child." That evening, Hai and Vi sat down to talk to Ben. "Son, did something happen at school today?" Hai asked, his eyes gentle. Ben nodded, his voice low. "Some friends said that I am not your real father because I gave birth to you. I don't understand." Vi held her hand, explaining, "Your father is more special than other fathers because he loves you and your mother so much that he is willing to do everything to have you. That doesn't make me less strong, but makes me the best father." Ben thought for a moment, then smiled. "Then I am proud of you." Hai hugged his son, feeling like all the pain he had endured was worth it. But the challenge did not stop there. An international medical organization suddenly contacted, asking Hai and Ben to participate in a genetic study to find out if Hai's body had any effect on his son's genes. "This is an opportunity for science to better understand your case," the invitation said. Vi immediately objected. "How can they want to use our child as a test subject? I don't agree." I was also hesitant, but he wanted to consider, "If this helps others in the future, I don't want to refuse right away." The argument between the couple lasted a whole week, the first time they had such a big disagreement. Finally, Mrs. Han spoke up. "Don't do anything you will regret later. Ben is my grandchild. I don't want him to suffer." Those words made Hai decide to refuse. He wrote back, My family has suffered enough. We just want to live in peace. That decision brought relief to the whole family. Hai and V focused on building a simple life. Their small shop became increasingly crowded, not only because of the goods, but also because many people were curious to meet the legendary special family. One time, a middle-aged woman came to buy something, then suddenly hugged V. Thank you. Thanks to your story, I dare to accept my son. He is just like Hai. V was surprised, then smiled. Don't thank me. We are just living true to ourselves. Ben grew up, becoming more and more like Hai in his resilience and more like V in his warmth. One afternoon, the family gathered around the dinner table. Mr. Trong suddenly said, I am old, but I am glad that our family is still here, still intact. Mrs. Han nodded. Thanks to you and V, Hai. Hai looked at the whole family, his heart full. No, it is thanks to all of us. Outside, the red sunset shines down on the small house, a reminder that after every storm, dawn always comes. After refusing an invitation to do research from an international medical organization, Hai and V decided to close the door to the noise of the outside world. They chose to live quietly, focusing on their small shop and their son, Ben, the family's greatest joy. Gradually, the gossip from the neighbors and the curious looks from strangers faded away. The small village returned to peace, as if no storm had ever swept through. But in the hearts of each member of Hai's family, the memory of the difficult days is still a valuable lesson, reminding them to cherish the simple happiness of the present. Ben grew up healthy, intelligent, and carried within him Hai's resilience and Vi's gentleness. The boy no longer cared about the teasing from his friends because Hai and Vi taught him the important thing is not what people say, but what you believe in. One autumn afternoon, when Ben was just 7 years old, he ran home with a drawing from art class. On the paper was a picture of a family of 5 standing under a sunny sky. Hai V, Mr. Trung, Mrs. Han, and Ben himself in the middle. I drew our family, the boy smiled brightly, because the teacher told me to draw what I loved most. V hugged her son, tears of happiness rolling down her face. You are my most precious gift. Mr. Trung, now in his 70s, is no longer the stern man he once was. Time and love for his grandson have softened his heart. He often visits Hai's house, bringing homemade toys or old stories to tell Ben. Once, when he and Ben were flying kites in the field, he turned to Hai, his voice low but warm. I used to think you embarrassed me, but now I see you are my greatest pride. Hai looked at his father, feeling his father's complete recognition for the first time in years. He held Trunk's hand and said softly, Thank you, Dad, for coming back. Mrs. Han, the silent mother, also found comfort in her final days. She was no longer tormented by the years of not understanding Hai, but instead was happy to see her family reunited. Every evening, she would sit on the porch, knitting sweaters for Ben and chatting with Vi about trivial matters in the village. I used to be afraid of losing you, she told Hai once, but now I know as long as you are happy, I want nothing more. I hugged his mother, his voice choked up, Me too, Mom. The Hai family's life is no longer the focus of media attention, but their story still quietly spreads. The documentary about them is re-aired on many international channels, and each time hundreds of letters are sent thanking them for their inspiration. Once, Vi read a letter from a father far away. Thanks to you, I have learned to accept my son. Thank you for showing me that family is love, not prejudice. Vi handed the letter to Hai, smiling. You see, we have changed something. Hai nodded. Not us, but all of us. You, me, my parents, and Ben. One bright spring day, Hai's family held a small party to celebrate Ben's 8th birthday. The space was filled with laughter, the smell of cakes, and the singing of loved ones. Mr. Trude stood up, raised his glass of wine, his voice trembling but full of pride. Today, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Hai, Vi, and Ben, for keeping this family together. I am old, but I have never been happier. Mrs. Han wiped her tears, Vi held Hai's hand, and Ben ran to hug his grandfather. I love you the most. When the party ended, Hai and Vi took Ben to the field behind the house. The spring wind blew gently, carrying the scent of grass and trees. Hai released a paper kite into the sky. The kite Mr. Trung made for Ben, and the whole family watched it fly high. Dad, the kite flies so high, Ben exclaimed. Hai smiled, turned to Vi. Just like our family, right? No matter how many storms there are, we can still fly. Vi nodded, leaning her head on his shoulder. Because we have each other. Under the deep blue sky, the kite hovers forever, symbolizing the journey of Hai's family, from the darkest days to the bright light of happiness. They have overcome prejudice, overcome pain, and found each other in unconditional love. Hai's story is not only a rare medical phenomenon, but also a living proof that families are built from the heart, not from stereotypes. They have proven that no matter how the world changes, as long as we have each other, all storms will pass. As the sunset falls, Hai, V, Bin, Mr. Trung, and Mrs. Han stand together, looking towards the horizon. There is no more fear, no more anxiety, only faith and hope. Hai softly said to V, "I never thought we would go this far." Vi smiled, because I did not go alone. And there, in the middle of the sunlit field, that small family found complete happiness. A beautiful ending to an extraordinary journey. What do you think about this story? Do you believe that true love can overcome all prejudices? Have you ever experienced a crying moment where you had to fight for acceptance? Leave your thoughts below in the comments section. I would love to hear your views. If you love inspirational stories like this, and forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel Beauty of the Soul and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any meaningful videos. Thank you for watching the story. Please share it to spread good values to more people. Leave a comment below. I will read it all and respond.